Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ancap Barber Shop. This episode, we are discussing hashtag Bottomunity and Argumentation Ethics. Episode 39 begins now.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the Ancap Barber Shop, your source for libertarianism and anarchy. Now for your hosts, the legendary, the inimitable Adam Brown, and of course, yours truly, Scott McDonald, the Ancap Barber, and Dave Hester. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Ancap Barber Shop. Fuck a duck, but don't get stuck as her cuck. This is the Ancap Barber Shop. And I fucked that up. That would have been a lot funnier. I was supposed to go right into the fuck a duck thing, and that makes me really upset. And we can't redo it because we're doing this live. I started reading my intro that I just did, so. God damn it. It sucks that went flat because that was good. Oh, but wait, what? What is this? Oh, I'm sorry. My producers are speaking, into my ear here. What's that? Okay, guys, this just in. Apparently, you can kill a girl just by blowing into her vagina with your mouth. And this has been corroborated by scientists and not some kid in a Marilyn Manson t-shirt named Josh that you rode the school bus with. What do you guys think about that? Do you remember that?
Was oddly specific.
Did you guys did you guys hear that as kids?
What?
No.
Neither of you?
No.
See, this is just like the sideways vagina thing with Asians.
Yeah. But
You
that's
heard
also
that?
that's also a
never
scientific
believed
fact,
that.
though.
Do what?
That's also a fact, though.
Yeah,
Right.
that is
Science-
also a fact.
The science is
along
settled.
with what we're talking about here. Yeah, well, that's something that kids used to tell me was that if you, and this always went around as kids, like if you blow into a girl's vagina, she would certainly die from it. It's true.
No, I've never heard that.
Watch out, Kara.
Yeah.
Which I heard, speaking of dumb things that your friends tell you when you're a kid. Like,
Right.
Which I grew up in Tennessee, and most of my friends, obviously we live in Alabama, most of my friends grew up in Alabama. They all said they heard the same thing from kids in Moscow, too, that, like, Marilyn Manson had his, like, bottom two ribs taken out so he
Right.
could suck his own dick, which
That's another perfect example of
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
I
It's
don't
also
think-
factual.
I don't think, yeah, I actually don't believe that's true at all. It's just something I think all middle schoolers thought were true.
Right.
Because, I don't know, it's a funny thing to say.
Marilyn Manson's like, I don't need to remove my ribs.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
can suck my own dick
Yeah,
anyway.
all completely false. But the dick sucking part, that's definitely real. Or, self auto dick. I don't know how you'd say that. It doesn't matter. But you may have noticed
Autofellatio.
this. Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
You're
But you may have noticed the sleek and stable new camera angles. If you're watching with us, you can thank me for that. But if you'd like to shame or ostracize someone over the terrible lighting, you can send your remarks to Adam at ancapbarbershop.com per the Ancap Barbershop Division of Labor. So do that, please, and put bad words in that email. So we've also had some Patreon content come out. We released March and April Little Off the Top. And if you guys don't know what Little Off the Top is, that is a show that is exclusive to our Pompadours and our executive contours. So $10 per episode and up, and you get Little Off the Top, which is just a very short one host segment, right? And the March one, what do we talk? You did the March one, and you talked about Nazis.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like old school Nazis, not like Nazis nowadays.
Right.
Yeah. But like the German American bun specifically, and in the 40s. Yeah.
The
Right
good,
around the beginning.
the
of
good
World
old
War
good
II.
old Nazis and the good old days before they turned into a bunch of vaping pussies.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you did that, and that was very short because it was scripted. It was very good. It was a lot better than mine. I just put mine out here just a couple of days ago, and what did I talk about? Oh, the Count Dankula stuff. The guy, the Scottish YouTuber that taught his
How has
pug.
nobody covered Nazi punks fuck off, but Nazi pugs?
Oh yeah, that's perfect. Oh
It
man,
fits, dude. I sang it this afternoon.
that might be good for some more exclusive content.
We could cover it live.
Yeah, it'd be good. But yeah. Maybe that would be a cool acoustic session.
I've always felt that the one thing that was missing here was bad music.
Really?
I feel like we're loaded down with bad music.
I think we've got some bad music hanging around. If you want me to back up about 5 minutes or whatever.
Fair enough.
But yeah, we did that, and we our live streams haven't necessarily been the best, but that's something that's fun to talk about. Me and Adam did one where I cut his hair and tried to podcast at the same time, and it didn't really work very well. Not as well as I thought it would. Apparently, talking and cutting hair is
Not
very
as- yeah.
It
very
turned out
difficult
all
to
right.
do. Yeah.
Well, the haircut did. Yeah.
Oh
not
yeah, the
from-
haircut.
yeah.
The haircut turned out fine.
there's-
The
live-
podcast
There's
was
one
just
spot
really
right
awful.
there, but
Yeah. Yeah,
Or
the
the live
haircut's
stream.
fine.
I think
live
he
stream
drew
wasn't.
that dick to be funny though. to be
Yeah.
honest.
Well, no, I
I
asked
don't
for
think
that.
it was a mistake.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like my signature.
Either way, I knew it was done purposely.
Right.
There's too much detail.
Yeah. No, Scott. Every head that Scott cuts, he shaves a little penis in the back of it.
Yeah.
That way
It's
everyone
very
knows.
small.
That
very
way
small
everybody
and
knows it
classy.
was his work. It's like
Yeah.
it's like a producer tag in a lot of hip hop songs nowadays.
Yeah, a lot of barbers do that. So I know there's one guy
There's a rapper
that
called
does
Little
like
Dingy.
2 little things. What's his name?
Little Dingy?
Little Dingy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Little
cool.
Dingy.
I can
There's
I can get down with
Which
that.
there's obviously Lil Dicky, that white rapper.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. I
which-
think that's who I was thinking
Maybe
about.
yeah.
actually.
Which that's
Yeah.
like perfect, like purposefully parodied. Like
Yeah.
like he does that on purpose because he does like a comedy rap type thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, plus if he's anywhere above like normal or at normal, it's like wow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, he in a lot of his songs, which I'm not ashamed. I listen to Lil Dicky, whatever.
I've heard a few of his songs. It's pretty good.
Yeah, no, he's a good rapper. But like he talks a lot about his average size penis and how it's hard to have sex from certain angles or whatever because you have to have a bigger dick to like fuck from the side and stuff. Like yeah, it's one of his ongoing gags.
I can get
guess.
down with that. I can get down with that. I might have to check it out. That's relatable.
Mhm.
But yeah. Oh, I have to clear something up. The last regular episode, I stated that Mr. Crowy Stowy was at the $5 an episode level, and he's that was actually incorrect. He's at the $10 per podcast
cool.
episode level. He is a Pompadour.
Nice.
Okay,
Thank
must be
you,
doing
Corey.
something right.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or he's doing something completely wrong.
So, do you guys have anything else that you need to bring up before we actually get started into this thing? Any cool experiences that have happened in your life recently? Not me.
I met flat earthers.
Oh yeah, okay. So we can't go into this too deep because I think it's gonna end up being a Patreon episode. But this was something that I intentionally avoided learning about flat Earth stuff.
I got excited when I found
I
out.
was just I don't know why because I'm very level headed typically and I can talk about things I don't.
That's why I was shocked
Yeah.
when you
I
were
had
like, I
a-
can't believe you
just
handled
a
that. So I was like, I
emotional
can't believe
reaction.
you
I was
wouldn't
like, I
come at it
can't-
with curiosity.
Yeah, I can't listen to people that say like I can't deal with it. But yeah, so you actually got me to start looking into it, and we watched a bunch of stuff together. And holy shit, y'all, that's a crazy motherfucking thing right there.
Yeah.
I met a group of them, and then through talking about flat earthers, because I'll give compared to a lot of the loons on the internet, these guys were respectful, and they didn't originally want to talk to me because I guess they could just see the glimmer in my eye when I heard the words flat earth. I had heard if aliens have black eyes, they're demons earlier in the day, so I knew that I
You were
was
ready for it.
Well, I knew these guys knew their stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
They weren't the casual flat earthers.
no. they and to be honest, they were respectful as hell, and I told them that I would be respectful because, like I said, they didn't want to, and I was like, no, you can't be saying that stuff out loud in public.
Yeah.
And not expect. I said, I promise, man, and I didn't. I didn't say anything nasty, and I haven't said anything nasty to begin with. Like, I mean that they seem like the problem is it's people that are like these guys all seem fairly intelligent. I mean I didn't see anything wrong, and I'm not speaking from a pedestal. I'm an imbecile most days, but no, I mean it was just one of those things. It's just like every video starts with somebody saying, well, I used to think that was silly, and
Yeah.
you know, and
Till
someone
I
told me
looked
the world
into
was
it.
flat, and then I looked into it, and,
Yeah.
and to be honest, when I watch like the Eric Dubay documentaries and stuff like that, there's a small fraction in the back of my head that realizes that I'm dumb, and there's other people that can quantify things further than what I can physically or mentally quantify something. And it's not just I don't suppose leaving it to somebody else to make an opinion for me, but I have certain people that I guess I respect the opinions of.
Well, when it comes to something like the shape of the Earth, right? Like I've never been to space, I've never seen the Earth, right?
Sure.
So I couldn't know for sure. But there's a lot of information that I don't have because I'm not an expert on the subject.
Right.
So this one guy who creates a short documentary on YouTube, he knows more false facts than I know regular facts or false facts, right? So he can build a better case than I could for having a round Earth, and but.
Right.
The problem is you just have to use your best judgment to decide who to trust when it comes to things that you can't prove for yourself.
Yeah, it's not hard to get past. I mean, it's not like there's a bunch of very good arguments. It seems like more than anything, it's people that already believe every other conspiracy, and they're like, what's one more?
Well, that's what you and me were talking about the other day. Is there's two things that seem to be a commonality between flat earthers. One, they don't believe in gravity, and two,
They don't believe in dinosaurs?
they have a belief in a much higher power.
Yeah,
Right.
they're big creationists, right?
Well, we joked because like they often bring up the God shall rule from all four corners of the earth or something. That I've never been overtly religious or anything like that, so I'm not exactly sure.
Right.
I'm butchering the hell out of it. But I mean, when you hear somebody talk about from the four corners of the earth, it's like, you guys think it's a fucking frisbee. There's no fucking corners.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
I like conspiracy theories a lot.
Yeah.
My favorite answer when I asked him who profits from it, because that's I like to start off not necessarily going to the science to begin with, but just to kind of calibrate where the level of sanity that I'm dealing with, I suppose, at that point.
You need a motive still.
Well, I ask him things like, who would benefit from this?
Yeah.
Who are they? Like you keep hearing they and them, and it's most people don't take into account that the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, like all these groups in country, much less dealing with other countries and their fringe group in the government.
Right.
It's like a herd of cats is I think the best analogy that I've heard for it.
I know who would benefit from it. The
devil.
Globalists.
The globalists.
I feel like you guys walked all over my punchline there. But yeah, you saw what I was going
Yeah,
for.
no, I get it. Yeah.
Well, the big answer I got was when who would benefit? Satan, and I was all right.
Oh,
Wow. Yeah. Okay. That's
all right.
fine.
Okay. Well,
I like
you guys have a good day.
I like the conspiracy about like lizard people running.
that
like,
one's all right.
Yeah, running the earth, who are like shapeshifters who live underneath the ground. That one's really interesting. I've actually like tried to look into that because I hear people who believe that, and
I think that has to do with like the Rothschilds and stuff like that having like they procreate within their bloodline. I mean, I bet they're hella scaly.
Yeah, it is exactly.
Right.
I looked into that, and it was hard to find any good information about that. But
I see.
saw Obama blink like that once.
I see what you're saying, and I haven't looked into the lizard thing very much. But it is an aesthetically pleasing thingy to get into.
people are into conspiracies.
It's interesting. It's cool.
and
I would like for politicians to be lizards, I guess. Is what I'm saying.
I think the reason people like conspiracy theories is because even if it's like a nefarious conspiracy, right? Like even if there's like really bad intentions behind it,
right?
Then it's still somewhat easier to believe that than things are random.
Yeah.
Right. It's
or to
easier.
take responsibility for your own life.
Exactly. It's easy to think that there's some sort of puppet master who's controlling things and keeping you down, or versus you just being a fucking product of either your own making or someone else's or whatever. You know what I mean? Randomness. More or less.
In all fairness, I like the term Illuminati. I think is kind of tarnished. I mean, it's a group that actually existed, and I think that to a small extent. I mean, I guess you could say like the 1% of wealth holders in the world, like the Rothschilds and stuff like that. I think that a fair portion of them do kind of rule the world in a sense, but I don't think it's quite like the way people think it is. I think they
may not be to that extent.
Play the long game for certain things.
Right.
Fun both sides. When you figure out who's going to win, start really pouring money into that side. I mean,
yeah, I could see that.
Well, you guys want to talk about some hashtag Bottomunity? I'm sure a
Yeah.
lot of people don't know what that is.
It's butt stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it sounds
That's what we're doing
like.
afterwards, right?
Yes,
Yeah, we're
that's-
gonna do some Bottomunity.
Yeah.
Oh man, I feel like we could get some cool jokes out of that. But Senior James Weeks posted. He's been doing like Facebook live streams on his way to work or whatever every day for the past couple of days, and they're pretty interesting. I've been watching all of them. The first one he did was about Bottomunity, which is a movement that I guess he's kind of trying to start to keep. Okay, so if you've seen the like the political compass is in like the quadrant, the 4 quadrants, it's anybody that is opposed to authoritarianism, the bottom 2 quadrants, as in left libertarians and right libertarians or
Right.
whatever.
It's your y-axis is authoritarian and libertarian versus,
Yeah. Which it's confusing because like left libertarian in that sense isn't necessarily like somebody who is an American style libertarian but then leans more to the left. It's a socialist that, at least in this sense, and this word gets thrown around a lot. My understanding is it's socialist that is not authoritarian.
Right.
Libertarian as opposed to authoritarian. So it's that same idea, but there's a big difference in their core beliefs and values. Who wants to go first? I can. But
well, what did we accurately explain what
probably
Bottomunity
not.
is? So
I'm sure we didn't. Adam, you go
it's
for it.
his idea that the people who are all in the bottom 2 quadrants, both the left and right, the left libertarians and the right libertarians, anarcho-capitalist and the anarcho-communist, anyone who is not authoritarian or on the libertarian, bottom 2, should more work together for a common
Right.
goal versus
As opposed to each side siding with their authoritarian counterparts.
Just because most of the time it turns into, like, whenever an ANCAP and an ANCOM discuss things, it turns into these arguments about what a community should be like when
Right.
neither one of these communities have ever even existed in the first place. It's like
Yeah.
it's a lot of theoretical bullshit. So it doesn't even matter. Let's first work towards destroying, the authoritarian part, and then we can worry about that later, right?
So you're all in.
No, but that, like, I kind of get it. in a
Yeah,
Of
way.
course
Yeah.
not. This is part of the infighting.
Yes. But yeah, that's the idea. So if that hopefully made any sense. So
No, I think that's a good job of describing it. I guess I'll just kind of start with my opinion. I really like. I appreciate James and I appreciate what he's saying here. And I'm not. I don't want to disparage it. And I'm not even actually saying that I disagree with it. There's a lot I guess I just don't understand. But I see there being an issue with, like I said, those stark differences in principle in how you deal with property rights, So if I just look at it like this, if we're just specifically talking about anarcho-communists and anarcho-capitalists, and there's a million other things in there, an anarcho-communist isn't going to allow people, and this is by my understanding of this stuff. I'm no expert when it comes to anarcho-communism or anything, or really even anarcho-capitalism, but I just like to pretend that I am on the internet.
You're not supposed to let them know, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, but it's evident anyways. So
Pretending
what's the
101.
point?
they're figuring
Keeping
it
up
out
the
slowly.
charade. Yeah, we've been doing this for almost 40 episodes now. If they haven't figured out that I'm an idiot, then that doesn't say much about our listeners. But that's an obvious joke. We love you guys. Where was I going with that? Anarcho-communists won't allow other people to hoard resources, right? Or there's an
Right.
arbitrary limit, and who knows what that is, or how you assign value to that. Who decides that? I don't really know or understand. But if they're not going to allow you to do that, or anybody that is maybe renting some property out, they might have some problems with that. There's just so many differences. Now, there are situations I can think of, because there are a lot of anarcho-communists that go around saying, yeah, we want this to be completely voluntary. And if that's what you're saying, and what I'm assuming that means is, if Adam is an anarcho-communist and he's my neighbor or whatever, and he says, hey, I think you should, give up part of your land or part of your money or whatever to this cause, or throw this into the
our
pot,
community or whatever.
Yeah. Then if I say no, then I get to walk away and nobody touches my stuff and there's no violence, right? That's my assumption of what that means, because I like the idea very much so of unity between those quadrants. I think that's a powerful thing. I just see, once you get to that point, if you can have people that agree to disagree, and here are your ANCOMs and here are your ANCAPs and your what the fuck ever, then that's great, But I mean, is that going to be the case? I don't know. And at that point, if it is a voluntary thing, then it's at least by my understanding of it, that's an anarcho-capitalist system. You're just having voluntary socialism inside of that. Maybe that's unfair for me to say to throw that over it, but I don't know. Adam, thoughts?
I have a lot of problems with it as well, but that's not to say that they couldn't be answered, right? It's more questions, right? And maybe James Weeks can shed more light on this subject and answer some of these questions for me, right?
Right.
So one would be, what cause do you want them to unite under, right? These two things. So obviously against authoritarianism, right? You don't have to explain that much, but necessarily, how would you go about overthrowing the authoritarian government that we have, right? Do you, unless you're suggesting violence, then you would suggest maybe voting for it, right? Democratically, like maybe voting for the Libertarian Party or
voting's for losers, though, right, Scott?
That is my position, and this is going to stray away from Bottomunity and get into a very nice discussion.
Yeah. See, I whenever we started this show, I talked about how I wanted to vote for Gary Johnson, right? And because I believed in the whole like pragmatic deconstruction of the government. Yeah. And I guess through my journey as a human being, I may have gotten away from that. I really don't know that I believe in voting anymore. Right. I might be. I just it seems like a bad idea to force any sort of belief system on anybody else. You know what I mean?
Is it really forcing though? I mean, that's
well, the losers do. The people who are on the wrong end of whatever you voted for, they get forced into it. Right. And
as opposed to being stuck in a situation that neither party's like. Or vice versa.
Maybe I'm sympathetic because I'm usually in the minority as far as my political ideas. Like, I'm stuck with this really shitty authoritarian thing, even though my political beliefs are not anywhere like that.
Right.
I guess it also depends on what it is that you're talking about too, like the issue. Right. Because I mean, there are some issues that I consider sinking boat issues, and it's you either vote one way or the other, or you stay in the sinking boat. Because you are in a sinking boat, but you have two different people offering two different answers.
Right. Right. Here's one of the things I want to point out, though, is I don't want this to be like a shot at James Weeks at all. I don't have any beef with James Weeks, so that's for sure. But unless, like I said, unless you're suggesting violence, because I don't think you can ignore the government out of existence. I don't think you can outcompete it. Right.
I don't think you can join the government and get to that elite of a status without something.
Right. So my assumption is that you're assuming that that the left and the right anarchists should all unite to form one larger political party, or should join the Libertarian Party and vote Libertarian and pragmatically deconstruct the government. But it seems by your actions that what was it, the Libertarian National Convention? Yeah, Libertarian National Convention. Yeah, that you seem like you don't really support the whole democratic process and trust the Libertarian Party.
I would argue against that statement. Not necessarily. I think I could, but
maybe he was specifically protesting Johnson and Weld, right?
But before everybody, because I know everybody's going to want to talk about this, before everybody starts at the LNC stuff, as I was hoping we would get here, I would have to clarify that I'm not sure what James's opinion on how. I know he's said that like his goal is he wants to see some sort of a libertarian society or a move towards a free society in his lifetime.
That's beautiful.
Right. No, that's absolutely great. And he is a member of the Libertarian Party, and that's that's a big part of what he does. Right. So, and I don't know James. I don't really talk to James, so whatever, I'm talking out of my ass. I don't know what his ideas about how you go through that. If it's strictly political, a lot of people say, politics is one facet of the diamond. Hit them from all sides, and I'm absolutely fine with that. I mean, me personally, I don't see getting there through through the political machine of a constitutional republic being a very likely thing. I don't want to disparage people that vote libertarian. I absolutely will not. I think that's great. I've got a lot of friends in the LP. Whatever. It's not particularly my thing. But what I see would be like if we ever actually did on a grand scale, as opposed to some smaller projects, some seasetting stuff, or buying up land and trying to create a free society there. As far as a large scale societal thing, it would probably not be very quick. I mean, that would probably I see it as a thing where technology outcompetes government, where we see the ability to move value and information, the cost of that, and the time that it takes going down and down and down and getting near to zero. I think eventually having a centralized authority is probably just going to be, out the door. It's just, it's going to be, technology is going to make it, what's the word I'm looking for? Not inevitable.
Obsolete or...
Yeah, obsolete, unnecessary, whatever. And that's something that I doubt I would see in my lifetime. I don't know. That would probably be something that would take a long time.
Right.
But I don't know. That's kind of my take on it. But like I said, anybody that does any kind of defensive voting or whatever, I wouldn't disparage that at all.
Right. I have a second gripe though. I'd like to discuss. Or
what's that?
Would be it's similar to what you were saying about whether or not you trust, say an anarcho-communist to have a completely free voluntary society, which I've discussed this really only with one or two people in my life, like who would actually call themselves ANCOMs,
right?
And they say, like in my conversation with them, that it would be completely voluntary, right? That our system's fine. You're free to walk away from it,
Okay.
I was
you're free.
about to say, as long as you're not getting thrown in jail, I'm A-okay with that.
Right.
I mean,
I
I guess it comes down to a point where if someone truly decides to be stubborn and you get told like, hey, to live here, these are the rules, this is how we divide up our tax system, this is how we get our infrastructure, and if you decide to be a real stubborn bastard and not live by it, move into that area, at what point do they throw you in a cage?
Right.
So,
well, any system where you're providing welfare, there's going to be lots of free riders, you know what I mean? And I don't know how well that's going to do with an anarcho-communist society, but my problem is when they were discussing that with me, they said it's completely voluntary. You can leave whenever you want. Okay, cool. I did consent. That's where I want to start with when I build my community. But the problem is I don't necessarily believe. I think that they believe it's completely voluntarily, but I don't know that it's possible for it to be.
Right.
I think once they set the system up and it gets rolling, maybe it's going to work for a little bit, maybe, but then someone's going to leave.
Yeah, it's inevitably not going to work in the long run.
I mean,
that's my economic opinion.
So what do you do when the farmers decide to leave, right? They're like, I'm out, They're like, what do we do? How do we replace farmers? We can't replace farmers. Fuck it, force them to stay, And then all of a sudden it's not voluntary. Now you have regular communism. I don't know that it's, which I'm sure they say the same thing about pure capitalism. Pure capitalism doesn't exist. I don't know that fucking pure voluntary, anarcho-communists can exist, and I don't trust it to.
Right. No, I completely agree. And I'm. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was going to say, and my third gripe with this, or my third question.
He's on a roll.
Yeah, which, like I said, I say gripe. These are things that I hopefully can be answered, and just because I don't know enough about the subject, right? So I don't, like I said, I'm not throwing shade at anything like that. Would be these people who are left libertarians now, right, or anarcho-communists or anarcho-syndicalists, whatever you want to say. These guys are obviously already anti-authoritarian.
Right.
I don't know that who they're voting for, anyways. Maybe they're voting for authoritarian left versus libertarian right or whatever. You know what I mean? Maybe they're voting Democratic versus libertarian. But I think if they're anti-authoritarian, they're probably not. I would imagine. You know what I mean? I don't know that how divided they really are, just because they can have discussions about just because they're arguing over each other about theoretical communities. I don't know that the libertarian left and the anarcho-communist, they're probably not voting for Gary Johnson, but
yeah.
I don't know that
I mean, they're probably... I don't know how many participate in electoral politics, but I would think in that situation you would vote for the welfare candidate, right? I mean, that's where you would do it, if they do.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't know. That maybe they do, maybe they don't. but they have something in common with the libertarian right. You know
Right.
what I mean? So I don't know. And also, where was I going to go with this? Hang on. Fuck it, I think I lost my train of thought.
Well,
there was one more thing I was going to say. I don't remember what it was.
You'll remember it,
Yeah.
maybe. But I don't know. I guess for me to summarize, I don't. So one of the things he says in the video is that we're all libertarians and we're arguing over fucking preferences, and I don't think it's a difference in preference I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's all fucking preference. I really do. But I don't think there's a religious or deontological aspect to it. But I don't know, man. I think there's a pretty stark difference in principles that's going to cause some issues.
I don't know. Some of the infighting that you witness, though, in the Libertarian Party is two people arguing, wanting the same end goal, but I don't know. It just not supporting each other, and then neither getting what they want. I mean,
Right.
I see that from time to time.
And most of what we're calling in this particular instance left libertarians probably, with the exception of you know some people probably aren't in the Libertarian Party. You know, they're left wing people, but. Either way, I don't know. I don't think it's as simple as just it coming down to economic preferences. I guess because at the end of the day, I think like an anarcho-communist or an anarcho-socialist or whatever is inherently authoritarian. Not just, I mean, because you don't have prices. You have people making the decisions, and it can be as communal as you want on how resources flow. So you have somebody that has more rights than somebody else deciding where
Someone's
that stuff
making that
goes.
decision, right?
A lot of things get labeled that way nowadays. There's a lot of ideologies that don't live up to the hype that they're advertised. There's a lot of people that will say like, "Oh, we're the party of freedom," and and then you listen to it, and it's the most restrictive ideals. Period.
Yeah,
it's fascists calling fascists.
Yeah, basically.
right.
It's what is it? I saw a meme like this today. It's that when you don't understand capitalism, so you call them fascists because you don't know what fascist means either. But I remember what I was gonna say. One of the things I like about anarcho-capitalism, or at least minarchism, libertarianism, whatever the hell I am, I don't even know. You know what I mean? Is that like there is such a difference between everybody, and I don't know that uniting everyone under the same ideology is ever really a good idea. You know what I mean? I think because my political ideology completely differs from yours,
Right,
and
sure.
from everyone in this room, and it's pretty much it's not completely unique to me, but as far as I know, like it's the way I feel.
I think it's weird when I see groups of people that think alike.
Yeah, right. Like
I just sum that up.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't think anyone can agree that tribalism is good,
Right?
And uniting people against something sounds like tribalism to me as well. It's just instead of being right and left, now it's top and bottom. You know.
Yeah,
I like on top.
right.
I'm a power bottom personally, so.
So what?
That's a sex joke.
What did you guys think about the strip dance at the 2016 Libertarian National Convention?
I thought it was kind of funny.
I thought it was funny, but I don't know, man. My biggest disappointment is I think all the parties above just shit the bed this last election. My biggest hope when I saw, especially once you started kind of realizing that this is in the bag for either Hillary or Bernie, and I mean the second Trump during the primaries for the Republicans turned around, looked at everybody he was running against. It was like, you borrowed money from me, you borrowed money from me. I provided 70% of your campaign. I don't need any of you. I was like, this guy's getting in. He's getting in on this side at least. And I was really fucking hoping that Hillary Clinton, easily beaten candidate. It doesn't take a lot to. It takes no experience and no name to beat her.
Right.
Trump.
He's a fucking reality TV star. You know what I mean? Like, I think I know what you're saying. If there's if
there
there
was
was
a
ever
time-
a chance for the Libertarian Party to be bigger or to be a fucking to be relevant, it was now. And
with that being the Libertarian primaries, I thought it just where you already had enough people with Gary Johnson getting the nomination. You already had enough people rolling their eyes at the Libertarian Party. I don't think that we necessarily, me and James Weeks, either necessarily think differently, But in all seriousness, I felt like that was just a cherry on the libertarian, like a whole nother reason for us to be the clowns that you can't take seriously.
Yeah.
I can't. There's no way I can disagree with that. But it's really hard because I mean, just I don't know.
If you want to be remembered for being in that kind of shape, in that kind of undergarments, I mean, kudos. You know?
It's just it was like as soon as I saw that happen, I was pretty excited. It's hard for me to see something
he was
like
visually
that.
excited.
Yeah,
Full bench tent.
It's hard for me to see something like that and
So
not
hard.
appreciate it. But that's just
And here's the thing: is
that's
like
me.
I know I just said that like I don't know that tribalism's good and uniting everybody's good, but or at least under whatever cause is good. Like I said, I question that, but
The
I
enemy
do
of the enemy, the enemy of my
Right.
enemy is my friend.
right. But at the same time, I kind of get what you're saying as well. Like it kind of like I said, do you believe in the system or do you not believe in the system? Whatever, but. At the same time, that wasn't the only thing that hurts libertarians as part of they were like Gary Johnson said he was in favor of driver's license and people start booing him. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
that's just as embarrassing I think for a lot of people to look at than as a dude stripping on stage. Like,
It's as much of a problem as I had with Gary Johnson. I mean, it was like way more Bill Weld. Like that
Yeah.
was just retarded.
right.
But
And then like I said, if you're an Ancap, right? Like I don't know that I believe in driver's license, right? Driver's license I don't fucking think should even really exist, but.
Do you believe in if you work in a warehouse or something like that? Do you believe in having to have a license to operate heavy machinery in a warehouse? For
That
a
should
job?
be the company's decision,
Okay.
right? Like they should say if you want to drive and work for us, you need whatever private license,
right.
So you don't think somebody should at least have a certain landmark that they have to hit before they can operate a large piece of machinery that can not only kill themselves but kill other people?
Well, if I would hope that the company isn't what's the right word? Careless enough to just let someone without the right certifications drive something that could kill
Right.
them or themselves or other
So
people. You know?
why would you want people driving around the street where you, your mom, your wife, your potential kids are with a possibility? I mean, I see a lot of people with driver's licenses that still drive for shit.
That's
Yeah,
that's a point that kind of
that-
works against you.
Yeah,
Well,
that's my point. Is that I don't know that the driver's license really makes that much of a difference as far as safety on the roads, and if the roads are private, then maybe they can have their own set of rule systems for whoever drives on that, right? Maybe
Right.
There could be limitless options as far as that goes, right? But as far as I'm concerned, at least as far as the LNC thing goes, if he, like I said, my personal opinions on driver's license is one thing, but if you want everyone else to take you seriously, you have to take baby steps in that direction, right? So
Right.
don't go and abolish the driver's license first thing off. You know what I mean? You vote for someone who has a better foreign policy, right? Who has a non-interventionist foreign policy, and then you go for something else, and who wants to defund, fucking public education or something, so on, so on, so on. Step down, like booing someone who's still supporting driver's license at this point is all you're gonna do is decredit yourself, right?
I guess, and I don't know. I could argue with you, but I'll leave it there.
Well, if you want to argue with me,
I don't really want to argue with you. I'm scared. But
you ain't got nothing. I know.
So this hashtag Bottomunity thing is very much in its inception, and if you look at least right now, you look this up on Twitter, you get a couple of posts from me and Adam were going through these before the show. Let's see, Dankertarians says hashtag left unity is a joke. Anarchists are first against the wall when authcoms, authoritarian communists, grab power, and statist liberals don't even give a shit what we think. Hashtag Bottomunity with the libertarians in the hashtag Libertarian Socialist Caucus, and others like Redneck Revolt are where it's at. And then it's some more stuff from Dankertarians, a bunch of them, and then you get handle Maria is skinny. Says, I love seeing bottoms together in one picture. This is very much needed in our community. Hashtag Bottomunity. And you guys are missing this. You see this picture?
Oh yeah.
I love seeing bottoms together in one picture. This is very much needed in our community.
Is that a bunch of
hashtag Bottomunity?
homosexual colored people?
Those are.
I'm
Those
gonna
are,
get you a bumper sticker that says hashtag Bottomunity.
Yeah, these
That's
are
awesome.
These are queer POC. So this commentary is both racist and homophobic, but it is I don't know. It caught me off guard just seeing this pop up, looking
That's
through all
pretty
this
funny.
political
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't think we followed the conversation me and Dave were having to an end either, though, about like driver's license or whatever.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Bottom line is, which we don't have to discuss it too much, is that private business, as far as I'm concerned, including things like roads, have their clients' safety in mind better than the government does, anyways. So I wouldn't feel any less safe in a more private
I
community.
feel it. I feel being able to get a license and being able to at least say that to me, because to me, at the end of the day, all the license does is say, I know how, or I have been given the opportunity to learn how to operate and use this heavy piece of machinery. Because that's essentially what a car is. If I wanted to destroy your house with my truck, I bet I could put a dent in it before my truck gives it.
It's a big truck and it's a small house, so that's completely possible.
Right.
But I mean, in all fairness, I think once you, especially once you start limiting authority and stuff like that, which I'm all for.
Right.
I think once you get to the point where you'll have people that say things like, "Well, I didn't know that." It gets into the point where people start going, "Well, I didn't know this." Well, what are you going to do at that point? Are you going to take away their license? Oh, wait, they didn't need a license to begin with. How are you going to at that point when people have killed other people or show time and time again with the rules and sets that you do have for each individual city, state, whatever, however you want to divide it up for the roads of law.
Yeah.
How at that point do you revoke someone's ability? Do you cut off their hands and their feet? Do you put them in jail?
That's a good question to ask people that manage road systems. So what I think the confusion is this. Me and Adam's position isn't necessarily that those systems of management are bad, but we don't want them to be centrally controlled by the United States government.
Correct.
So
I would be all right. I mean, it's with it being centered down to, like, here we have it down to states governments. I'd like to see it down to a further level, like maybe like city,
community
county.
government. Right.
Sure, yeah.
I would be okay with it. I guess I misunderstood. I assumed that you guys were just
No.
Put
We
anybody
would.
on the road or
let me
whatever.
put it like this: as opposed to having that be a central thing where the government controls it and they decide who can and cannot do whatever. I would rather see people that own road systems compete with ideas to come up with the best system to respect people's privacy as well as keep everybody else safe on the road. Because
snipers next to the interstate.
there you go.
Yes.
There you
Yes.
go. Because if you're using a road system and it's not safe, you're not going to want to use it unless you're trying to save some fucking money.
Right.
We've got a bulletproof car.
Yeah.
Them cheap gravelly roads where the privatized cops are all snorting meth and stuff. Those might not be the safest solution in an anarcho-capitalist society if they exist in that fashion, but they might be the cheapest. So
But
if
that's
you,
your choice
or
as a
if you-
consumer
yeah.
to decide that. you know?
Exactly. So or if you have a little bit more time and you want to spend, you want to save a little bit of money, use those shitty roads. Or if you're trying to get to work on time, you spend a little bit more money. Whatever. You guys understand the principle of what I'm saying,
Right.
anyhow. So my final word on Bottomunity, very simply, is that I really like the spirit of it, and I'm not, like I said, I don't want to disparage it at all. I think I'm very sympathetic with that idea. I don't know. Maybe I don't have my head wrapped around it well enough. I am kind of skeptical.
I have
but-
a hard time wrapping my head around butt stuff too.
So the next thing we're going to talk about, and this is going to be a little bit difficult, is argumentation ethics, and this was an idea that Hans Herman Hoppe brought to the table back in the 80s. Old Triple H. So everybody hears Hoppe and stuff, they immediately think physical removal. This is something distinct from that. And it's
The guy had other thoughts.
the guy had
He
other
did, yeah.
thoughts, and they were pretty good. So I'm gonna, rather than sit here and try to explain it, I'm actually just gonna read from the Wikipedia entry on argumentation ethics. I read a couple of different articles, and this is a very broad thing that goes into a lot of little nooks and crannies, of discussion that I've listened to a lot of people talk about it. I've read a lot of articles, and it's hard to bring it down to a very simple level, very introductory, to understand, because it goes so many different ways. But I thought the Wikipedia did good, so that's what we're going with tonight. Argumentation ethics is a proposed proof for the libertarian principle of self-ownership, developed in 1988 by Hans Herman Hoppe, a professor emeritus with the University of Nevada, Las Vegas College of Business, and Ludwig von Mises Institute senior fellow. Responses have mainly come from Hoppe's colleagues at the Mises Institute, among whom the argument's reception has been mixed. Argumentation ethics aims to prove that arguing against self-ownership is logically incoherent. Hoppe states that if argumentation praxeologically presupposes the norm that both the speaker and the listener are allowed to exercise exclusive control over their respective physical bodies in order to settle a disagreement or resolve a conflict over scarce resources, then it follows that propositions propounded during such argumentation cannot contradict this norm without falling into a performative contradiction between one's actions and words. Thus, Hoppe concludes that despite aggressive behavior being possible, it cannot be argumentatively justified. So, if I could summarize that and try to simplify that a little bit, the idea is you can get to libertarian principles or a libertarian ethic from examining the way that people already settle disputes, which is, typically through argumentation, right? So
personal insults, that's my go-to.
right. So there are a lot of things, like if you and me, so using your mouth to make words isn't necessarily always argumentation, right? There's a lot of mouth word action going on that isn't an argument. An argument occurs when there's a dispute.
Right.
If there were never disputes, then everybody would just, have whatever property they have and it wouldn't be a problem. So if you have a dispute, you typically enter into an argument. If we disagree with something, we talk about it. Whenever two people do that, there are some things you can examine going on. Number one, that they're exercising, that they own their body and that they're in control of it. And number two, that and once again, I don't understand this all as my very base level thing. But if you're kind of entering into an agreement by discussing it, as opposed to just using force and taking what you want, you're saying, okay, well, we're going to try to get to the bottom of this. And you can deduct from that, at the end of the day, if you end up agreeing to disagree, you both walk away and you don't hurt each other.
Right.
That's the idea, very, very simply. Right. Oh, yeah, and a lot of times that doesn't necessarily happen.
I disagree. You're fat.
I'm not reacting violently, so we agree to disagree.
And he has guns.
And I do.
I'd be dead right now.
Allegedly have guns, and I'm not using. How crazy is that? Hoppe states that his theory is an a priori, value-free, praxeological argument for libertarian ethics. Argumentation ethics asserts the non-aggression principle is a presupposition of every argument and so cannot be logically denied during an argument. Argumentation ethics draws on ideas from Jürgen Habermas and Karl Otto Appel's discourse ethics, from Misesian praxeology, and from the political philosophy of Murray Rothbard. As stated by Hans Herman Hoppe himself, his theory was found independently by Frank van Dun in Ghent, Belgium in 1970. So that was actually before, 1988, something like that, before he came up with it in his PhD work titled Het fundamenteel rechtsbeginsel. I don't speak German, so I don't know what that means. Hoppe first notes that when two parties are in conflict with one another, they can eventually choose to resolve the conflict by one of two means: engaging in violence or engaging in honest argumentation. In the event that they choose argumentation, Hoppe asserts that the parties must have implicitly rejected violence as a way to resolve their conflict. That is, both participants agree that each one has to exercise exclusive control over their body parts in order to produce and perceive meaningful sentences. He therefore concludes that nonviolence is one of the underlying norms of meaningful argumentation that is accepted by both participants. And the first thing that I'm thinking of here is, like, I guess you could have an argument, and then at some point during the course of that argument, you could stop arguing and you could just use force, right? You could disagree about something. You could come to, you could disagree about the conclusion, and then you could say, oh, well, I'm just going to take your stuff or something like that. But I don't think that disproves it necessarily, because at that point, you're contradicting your previous behavior, aren't you?
Right.
Because you've already attempted to settle it via an argument.
Mm-hmm. And if it can't be settled via words, maybe there's not much merit behind the idea that you're trying to portray anyways, right?
Exactly.
Or maybe, that's not always 100% true. There's a lot of people who aren't good at talking.
That you're going to kick that person's ass.
Dude, I will show you. I promise I will whoop your ass, dude.
Yeah, I guess at that point that would be bad tactically, because you should just do it. And not say what you're doing. But I don't know. Like I said, this is a really interesting thing that goes a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
But just base level from the way people already deal with each other. So this is kind of Rothbard's thing was natural rights, and that was what everybody kind of believed at the time. And still a lot of people are natural rights libertarian today. And I've always had some issues with that. And that idea is just, I don't know, like, okay, so how the libertarian ethic is supposed to be derived from, we see this in nature, but you don't always see that in nature. And I believe they made that point already, unless I'm thinking of another article that I read. It just, that was never satisfactory to me. And that's also what old Triple H there thought.
Yeah.
When he came up with argumentation ethics. And I definitely think it's interesting. I'm not smart enough to sit here and say whether or not I could argue out of it. And I've listened to people who have disagreed with it and this and that. And people go back and forth, but I don't know. What do you think, Adam?
Well, there are a lot of people, I guess, who disagree with it, right? Because
yeah, sure. Majority of people.
We've gotten to this point now where it's not incredibly uncommon to just hashtag punch a Nazi, right?
Sure.
Because their ideas are too dangerous to let out into the public or whatever. So I think we've strayed really far from that, from the idea of just talking it out, or
right?
Whatever,
What's really sad is, that hashtag punch a Nazi is, you starting to see it mirrored on the other side too.
Yeah.
Eventually, like a group gets tired of getting knocked on. You get hit enough times where you feel unsafe as a group because it happens so commonly.
Right.
It's inevitable at that
It's
point.
dangerous to pick a side. You're gonna, there's so much violence being thrown around. It's weird how common that is. It's not.
I wonder how many people in those situations end up getting kind of forced into a side. I'd be one to bet there's a handful of people that show up to those things that are kind of middle grounders, and one side really just opens up their butt cheeks and shows their asshole down.
And creates a fan of the other side, or one more supporter.
You see them do it to their own all the time.
Yeah, I think people weirdly like that. You know what I mean? Like I've said before, like there's something like I don't know, it sounds kind of fun about being at a battle of the Berkeley, right? Like big side, and then like all you and your friends just go beat the shit out of someone else, or a bunch of other, which is terrible because I'm not a violent person, right? But but at the same time I like MMA and boxing and whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I've never been.
That's regulated violence,
right?
Where trained professionals are swinging their bones at each other.
Right.
This is amateur people that don't understand concussions, head injuries, stuff like that. There is no ref. Hell, the police don't hardly ever intervene.
I never support violence, like really ever.
Let's say maybe you don't support the initiation of violence, right?
I've like considered being a pacifist before.
But you still like MMA though,
right? And but that's pretty consensual, I guess too. So that's not quite the same thing. But I don't give it UFC any of my money. But I can't help, like, it's sort of a weird internal thing, which whereas I would never enjoy hurting someone, right? Even if they disagree with me on something pretty serious, right? Or even if they're like a really fucked up person, right? Like a murderer, right? Like I'm not really into vengeance either. I really like to think I'm pretty forgiving,
right?
And I don't want to hurt anyone, So like I've really considered being a pacifist, but some weird like primal part inside of me like wants to
fuck you,
like like
you can't have my shit.
Yeah, some like weird inner part of me which decides it's my own problem or whatever, that like I really want to be with all my friends and be in a bar fight. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I want to break a fucking chair over someone's head because that sounds incredibly awesome. And then at the end of it, we can all be bruised up and have a beer and be like, that was insane, right? Guys? Like some weird part of me wants to do that, but maybe that's just because I'm a guy. I don't know. but that's such a bad idea.
Those are
And I'm
also
aware of it.
situations that like end up with some kid bleeding out of his head
Yeah.
with an ambulance.
Yeah. Right, like-
charges. Like,
Yeah.
It may
No,
not be that
It-
romantic.
when I
No.
see those videos and stuff, I don't think like I'd like to be on charge on either side of that. More so than anything else. I guess I'm a pacifist in most aspects of my life, but I mean, I'll defend my family. I'll defend myself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
which is
I
a
would defend some-
contradiction
I would
to pacifism.
I would defend anybody from either side that's close to me. If I saw
Yeah.
someone helpless or
Mhm.
someone that just didn't initiate violence, have violence thrust upon them,
Right.
I might be willing to step in. I for sure.
Yeah,
would.
then
I
you're
for sure
then you're
would with one of
definitely
you
not a
guys.
pacifist. Then I mean
that's
you're
what
a
I'm saying.
libertarian.
In most aspects
Right.
of my life, I
Yeah.
just I don't see any reason to
Mhm.
Right.
like you said
Right.
initiate violence.
That's the thing is like that's why I ended up not considering myself pacifist is because there are just some scenarios that I know like
Yeah.
it wouldn't be smart, logical, or even best for my own safety to not defend myself. You know.
Yeah.
Your
like-
girlfriend wouldn't feel very safe either. Whoever
Right.
you're dating, whoever
Right.
you're married to.
Exactly, you know, and God forbid if like someone hurt her and I didn't help, you know, like
Yeah.
what would she do, you know, like
Leave you.
exactly,
Yeah.
pretty plain and simple.
There are things in my life that I'm not willing to give up to aggressors one
Mhm.
way or the other.
Right, but one of the reasons why I thought that way is because like we've talked about on this show determinism, and I'm not sure that I believe in free will, and so when I see people who do really bad things, right, someone who breaks, you know, someone who may break into my home and steal from me, like that person's sick and lost, you know what I mean? Like he's fucked up
yeah.
beyond, you know, like to the point where he's doing something who's is just blatantly not right, you know. And maybe he was born that way, maybe he wasn't, you know, maybe something terrible happened to him, but like at
Sure.
the same time I don't know that I'm the person to pass judgment on and to hurt him for it.
I don't-
Whereas I'd rather just get him help so he didn't do this to anyone else. But at
Yeah.
the same time, if
There's
he's
a handful of people in that situation though that don't want help. They're not going
Right.
to be helped either.
Mhm.
And at what point do you kind of classify people in that situation? Like, especially
it's
like I remember there was like 2 or 3 people, the house that I grew up in,
Mhm.
that would consistently, if we found something missing in our garage, we would go around to pawn shops or
Mhm.
local people we knew that bought machinery and stuff like that, and we would find out that it was one of these same 3 people, and it was a repeat offender.
right.
And to begin with, my dad, you know, because they were just a couple years older than me,
Right.
relatively young, he didn't want to throw the book at him, and by the end of it, my dad was ready to beat their asses. Just
Yeah.
go find them first.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Find out, beat them within an inch of their life, and then ask them where they pawned it.
Mhm.
Right.
And you know the thing is that's probably more helpful than psychiatric help. Like I think there are a lot of people who are on really shitty paths, you know what I
Right.
mean, and then just get some serious sense slapped into them, you know what I mean? Like they get the shit beat out of them, and they're like, "Man, what am I doing wrong?" You know, and then maybe they
Well, I mean,
Maybe I
I've,
fix it,
I've been
yeah.
a serious smartass, and I mean, I can think of one time where someone, I mean, they didn't punch me to knock me out or knock a tooth out. In fact, it seemed very much like a warning shot, but I
Mhm.
was smart enough, and I got popped in the mouth, and it was.
Mhm.
you're like, "All right, hang on."
I didn't
Yeah.
even fucking get mad at that point.
Right. Mhm. Yeah, and that's the other thing is I've also been in physical altercations, right? Like not by my own doing. I have a friend who's kind of a loudmouth, and he drugged me into a couple fights, you know,
His
And-
name starts with a J, doesn't
and
it?
ends with an ACOB. Yeah, and yeah, he's drugged me into a couple altercations, and one like I got punched, and like there was no like fight or flight
Right.
thing in my head at all. Like that didn't happen at all. All that happened to me, like in that moment of being punched, was like, I need out of this situation. This is
Right.
not good. Wow. Okay. How do I prevent myself from getting punched again? Okay. What's going on? You know, like that was that. There was no like things going black, fit of rage, or let me run out of here. And I just stood
Right.
there and I was like, fuck. You know, that's pretty much it. But yeah. But yeah, I think that's one of the other things that drives me away from pacifism is that I don't know that it actually is best for helping people learn to correct their ways. I think maybe sometimes
Yeah.
violence is better.
I mean, yeah, I'm definitely sympathetic towards anybody that's has mental health problems, has made bad decisions in their
Mhm.
life, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, if it comes down to them or my family, I'm sorry.
It has to be your family. it has
For
to.
me, it has to be.
There's
you know?
there and I wouldn't question that decision either. And I
Absolutely.
think that's the right thing to do.
Argumentation ethics, yay or nay?
Solid yay.
I really like it. I think
Yeah.
it's interesting, especially for to someone like me, that libertarianism it isn't derived from religious beliefs or something like that. You know, it's I don't know exactly what the I guess like a rationalist, you know, coming at it from that perspective, that is very logical to me.
It gets a
And
2 thumbs up. Yeah, I like
it's
it.
very deep, and it's something that I need to go into deeper,
Right.
and really look at. But
Are we still talking about that butt stuff again?
Yes, we've never stopped talking about butt stuff.
Well, we briefly discussed
We're just dog whistling. to
argumentation
butt-
ethics. That's what we're
butthole
supposed to be
fanatics.
talking about. But we're all over the place.
Yeah, which that's something which, like you said, we can both look into more and
Right.
and discuss further, as well.
I'm giving it 2 thumbs up, even though I don't really know that much about it. But
I like it. Yeah.
it is very appealing to me, and I like what I've heard. Also, at some point, Corey has joined, and he said hi, as well as the Gay Boys Show. That is true. How are you, Corey? Hey.
Which Corey? Our Corey?
Our Corey, yes.
Hey, Corey.
Hey, Corey.
Hey,
Everybody
Corey.
says hey, Corey, to our Corey. But
Wondering
yeah,
when he's coming back down here.
hopefully soon. But yeah, let's get into our book segment. Hold on. Give me
There we
this. Give me this book thing. So we've made it up to chapter 4, I believe, how the state transcends its limits. And I'm sure. Let's see. I read through this again today, and let's see. What's a good way to set this up? Let's see here. Rothbard was kind of discussing back and forth, at least in the context of this book, with a gentleman named Mr. Black. Let's see here. And he starts out, well, he doesn't start out here. This is the middle of the chapter. But as Black recognizes, one major political theorist who recognized, and largely in advance, the glaring loophole in a constitutional limit on government of placing the ultimate interpreting power in the Supreme Court was John C. Calhoun. Calhoun was not content with the miracle, in parentheses, but instead proceeded to a profound analysis of the constitutional problem. In his disquisition, Calhoun demonstrated the inherent tendency of the state to break through the limits of such a constitution. And the miracle that they had been previously discussing in this chapter was basically, people observing, saying, well, it's the government that at the end of the day keeps itself in check, and that's just a miracle how that works out so well. And also, John C. Calhoun is the guy that Calhoun Community College, very close to us, and is probably where Tanner is right now. That's named after him.
I didn't know that.
He's I didn't either. I mean, I knew everything about him. I didn't look any of this up. I already knew it. He was the 7th vice president of the United States of America, and I believe he's from South Carolina.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, into John Calhoun.
Why is there a small community college near us in Alabama named after him?
I know, and I'll tell you after the show.
Okay.
A written constitution certainly has many and considerable advantages, but it is a great mistake to suppose that the mere insertion of provisions to restrict and limit the power of the government without investing those for whose protection they are inserted with the means of enforcing their observance will be sufficient to prevent the major and dominant party from abusing its powers. Being the party in possession of the government, they will form the same constitution of man which makes government necessary to protect society, be in favor of the powers granted by the Constitution, and opposed to the restrictions intended to limit them. And this is where it gets interesting for me. The minor or weaker party, on the contrary, would take the opposite direction and regard the restrictions as essential to their protection against the dominant party. But where there are no means by which they could compel the major party to observe the restrictions, the only resort left would be a strict construction of the Constitution. To this major party would oppose a liberal constitution, or to this the major party would oppose a liberal constitution. It would be construction against construction, the one to contract and the other to enlarge the powers of the government to the utmost. But of what possible avail could the strict construction of the minor party be against the liberal construction of the major, when the one would have all the power of the government to carry its construction into effect, and the other be deprived of all means of enforcing its construction? In a contest so unequal, The result would not be doubtful. The party in favor of the restrictions would be overpowered. The end of the contest would be the subversion of the Constitution. The restrictions would ultimately be annulled, and the governments be converted into one of unlimited powers, which I think is very interesting, just because, I don't know, it kind of goes into whenever they're talking about the two different parties, or not necessarily two, whatever. But so if you have one that has more power than the other, they have goals that they want to meet, and they have things that they want to do that a lot of times are going to be, at least in a lot of people's eyes, in contradiction to the Constitution that said government has.
Right.
So they are going to want the Constitution, at least like in our context, to be a living, breathing document, so they can get their stuff done easier. And then whoever is the minor party, whoever's in opposition, say, no, we need to stick to the strict Constitution. And but that's not necessarily a Republican Democrat thing. I mean, that could change depending on the issue or whoever's in power.
Right.
But the end goal is whoever has more power at the end of the day, since the Supreme Court, in our particular situation, interprets it and makes those distinctions. They end up getting what they want.
Right.
A lot of times. But I thought it was interesting, and
It was. I thought you summed it up very well, too.
oh, thank you. And I believe the next chapter we're going to do is Chapter 5, What the State Fears. So, yeah. Is there by the way, somebody named Kara says yay? Oh, they were saying that to Corey because Corey says I'm moving back in fall. Oh, good.
wow.
Nice.
Fall. Okay. Well, I can't wait for it to come.
I don't like that Cara girl. I blocked her.
Yeah, I
Smart
everybody else should probably do that. But yeah. Is there anything else we need to bring up before we end this wondrous edition of the Ancap Barber Shop?
The only thing I want to say is you briefly mentioned on it as well, sort of the state of our current Patreon content. We've got a lot of stuff coming out this month, don't we? We've got
we do.
Keep an eye out. We're doing, I think, 2 more live streams or something like
We're
that.
gonna do 2 live streams this month. That we're gonna do an extra one because the last one was so terrible. And
If you guys do that again, next time you do a haircut, I'll come facilitate.
yeah,
for you guys.
yeah. Well, we probably won't do a haircut. We'll
that's a bad
probably
move. Probably won't
do
go back to it,
something more conducive to
Pubic
making
waxing.
good content.
Yes.
Oh God.
What I was say is keep an eye out. We've got a lot of good stuff coming out.
We got a lot of good stuff. We're going to get a regular Patreon episode for all our patrons out this month.
Yeah.
A couple of live streams. Hold on.
I think all our patrons will be really happy with our product this month, essentially.
Bonus
Not
live
product, but,
stream, Patreon episode, commentary track on a movie. And I think at some point, I don't know if this will happen this month or not. I'm actually going to try to do an episode with Corey. Have him.
What
with
movie
him.
are you guys trying to do?
I think he's never seen The Wedding Singer. And that's one of my top. You were just like, man.
No, fuck it.
I love that. That's one of my top 5
That was the
favorite
look
movies.
of pure disappointment on his face. Like, fuck.
If enough listeners, and it has to be a lot. Okay, I think there's 535 likes on the Facebook page right now. So if we can get 535 people to comment on this video or somewhere and say that they don't want it to be the Wedding Singer, they want another movie, then that's fine, whatever.
It has to be all 535.
Unless that happens, I'm putting my hand down.
Let's
Yeah.
come together, guys. You and me.
If there's ever been one thing to rally behind, it's this.
Let's hashtag Bottomunity this thing or whatever. But yeah. So yeah, we've got good stuff coming your way. And so go check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Ancap Barber Shop.
Oh, we tried to do our episode this month. Okay.
Yeah. The
Continuation Flat Earth.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do for the Patreon episode. So if you'd like to hear more Flat Earth stuff, and Dave has some exciting anecdotes.
Hopefully we'll either get a Flat Earther on the podcast. I don't know how comfortable you would feel.
That
one of
so
those people
here's
into
what
your
I want.
Studio here.
Yeah,
And,
the Martin Shkreli Studios are a very very high scale establishment. This isn't my house. But I still don't want people just walking in and out of here.
the view is amazing.
The view is very nice. There's a bed for anybody that wants to take a nap while we podcast.
Yeah.
Usually me.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, what are we talking about? We're gonna get some good content out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I don't think we have anything else. So What do we do at this point?
Shut her down.
I'm trying to shut her down, but I'm too far away from my thing that I need to read here.
There
So
are costs
I'm
associated with
making
the Ancap Barber Shop.
I know how
yeah.
it goes. There are costs associated with the production of the Ancap Barber Shop, and we would like to bring you more content. If you would like to help us out, we conveniently offer an abundance of avenues to do so. You can buy an Ancap Barber Shop t-shirt, make a one-time or recurring donation through Bitcoin, give a per-episode donation of as little as $1 an episode using Patreon, or even advertise on the Ancap Barber Shop. Flex your free market muscles and go to ancapbarbershop.com. You can also find us on facebook.com/Ancap Barbershop. Search Ancap Barbershop on YouTube, Twitter and IG at Ancap Barber, or send us an email at feedback@ancapbarbershop.com. We love hearing from our listeners, and if you're not an asshole, we might even shout you out on the show. All right. It's been a good show, guys. So
Been real weird, guys.
it's been fucking weird. Worms.
y'all.
This has been a Pax Libertas Productions podcast.